Howdy, hey there. Today I decided to capture my adventure of getting over it, and the parts that caused me emotional turmoil to deal with. Well, you see, the first obstacles were these lantern thingies. And while I had a few failures, my main two were, well, doing this, and pushing myself up the top. And then, after falling, doing so again. But I did manage to get up, which led me to the vertical wall, which I fall off immediately, but I did reach it in only 15 minutes. And that's when I realized my movements reminded me of something. Spider hiker. Part spider, part hiker. All climbing. And with those climbing abilities, I very nearly fall off to the beginning. Get rid of the nearly part. I then decide to chase my childhood dreams of touching a blue slide and some nasty boxes. What can I say? I was a weird child. I go about touching even more nasty boxes. Child me would be so proud of being a bald dude in Cauldron touching musty boxes. On a side note, it took me nearly an hour to get here. And here is one of the main antagonists of our story, which have been dubbed by the community as Orange Hell due to its unwavering desire for tears. I also go ahead and get rid of the orange real quick. And with the first jump, the suffering starts. And I attempt to get over it. And I attempted for a while, but alas, I fall down to the blue slide. But with this fall, the slide has lost its beautiful glint. I attempt to get back by crawling up along the umbrella to stroke the blue slide, but it results in me falling. I did manage to get to the orange hell, but didn't turn out better, and so I attempt it again, and it results in a bigger fall. And so I decide to avoid the blue cell altogether and instead use a speedrun trick. I do this by propelling myself up via thrusting to smack the stairs and climb up. At least that's the idea. With enough practice, I was able to do it much more proficiently and actually get up. Here I use the trick of slowly moving my hammer to crawl up orange hell, but first I have to reposition myself to make sure I can get up easily enough, and just slowly move along. And thus I was able to actually progress by thrusting myself upwards to reach a whole new area. And this area took me 4 hours and 25 minutes to arrive at. Now after climbing that section of orange hell, I am able to get to my own form of hell. I spent a horribly painful amount of time smacking different versions of rocks in this area, and even managed to whack a top hat multiple times before finally managing to scale up this formation of rocks. And it took me nearly 5 hours to do so when I reached the anvil. I used the anvil to propel myself onto the cliffside and further pull myself up. Then I was able to launch across these snow mounds, that is, before struggling and falling, and, well, falling again, and again. Side note, I fall a lot. Though after many falls, I did finally get across the snow mound to another part of this mountain I hate, the bucket. Now reaching the 5 hour and 15 minute mark, I didn't expect this to take much longer, and so I went to grasp the bucket and did so before falling, and then attempting again, just to fall once more. But nothing could make my persistence waver, not even that fall, mostly. Though after more trial and error, I was able to make my way back to the bucket and actually use it to grab onto a wooden part that I could use to then push off against and then push off of that to get across to the next part of the mountain. Now, being on the next part of the mountain filled me with determination, and thus I went as quickly up the hill as possible, and while I did have, well, a few oopsies, I was able to get back up without too much difficulty. I managed to get up to the antenna, which is the final obstacle, in a little less than 6 hours. And at this point, I felt optimistic that I'd be done within another hour. But the title of this video says 12 hours, not 7. And so I fell. And fell. And, of course, fell. Until finally, I got to the point where if I had made this jump, it wouldn't have been a 12-hour video. And then I put the final nail into my casket and sent myself flying off the top. And I did my very best to bring myself back up, but that wasn't working very well. Until it went very not well. But I did manage to bring myself back up. But then it got so much worse. And here you can see the fear and hoping to avoid falling in this moment. I'm hanging on by a sliver of a hammer. And sadly, my hope just wasn't enough. I start my trek back up immediately, touching musty boxes and working my way to touch the stairs and return to Orange Hell. I surpass my emotional limit and climb the gargoyle. And the rock, not the actor. And toss myself across some very snowy boulders. And I do this perfectly. Now, by the way, at this point, I'm 8 hours into this. I did manage to get back to the bucket, and I would then fall. An attempt to get back up to the bucket until hour 10. And then, I still spend a ridiculously long time attempting to climb the bucket, and I sped it up so you can see a bit of it. And I wouldn't be me if I didn't fall back down to Orange Hell at least once. After that, I used the bucket to reinstate my claim of the slope and go about smacking it to make progress. I managed to splendidly return to the tower, and while I fail initially to get up, I managed to fling myself up and crawl my way up the tower, gently, making sure it enjoys it until I go ahead and finish the game at 11 hours, 41 minutes, and 45 seconds. With that, I took the time to compile the stats of this. I fell a grand total of 1,294 times and fell to the bottom a heartbreaking 12 times. With that, go ahead and like the video if you enjoyed it, and in case I don't see you again, love yourself no matter what, internet person.